And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to DreamHack Open Summer. Yes, thank you.
Nice crowd.
An awesome crowd. Very much so. So we did just watch Jaedong defeat Stefano 2-0, which means Stefano's out, Jaedong moves on. And the next match that was just now determined as well, we can go to the bracket right now and take a look at that, was Daishi versus Lucifron, with Lucifron also edging out of it. Well, I guess not edging out of victory like Jaedong. Anyways, 2-1. Lucifron does win, which sets up Jaedong versus Lucifron, a very exciting match. EG versus Maus, Korea versus Spain. Lucifron still waiting on that big breakout tournament. Could this be it? Does defeating Jaedong springboard him into the place where a lot of people have been predicting him to be, which is a tournament-winning caliber player?
That's true. But before we get there, we have another match for you guys. And these players spawning in the bottom left position as the Red Zerg, a map that is Whirlwind. From Team Liquid, it is TLO. And his opponent spawning in the bottom right position as the blue Protoss player. From LGIM, it is Squirtle.
A Zerg versus Protoss. Very interesting story for this match for me. TLO has time in and time again in these last few major tournaments absolutely turned heads with how well he's played through group play and through early stages. But one of the kind of criticisms, I suppose you could say, but really just the gorilla on his back has been that, well, at the end of the tournament, he kind of fades away. And I think that that's such a tough thing to deal with, because it's not like you fade away losing to Squirtle, a GSL runner-up, an incredible miracle player. I mean, one of the absolute best Protoss players on the planet. This is the universe once again handing TLO an opportunity to rise up to the occasion and prove that he is putting in the work to become a tournament winner. And on the flip side, it's Squirtle, who we haven't heard that much of. I mean, he used to go to MLGs, he used to win long rounds into GSL, but he fell kind of silent in the crowd of Kespa players and other successful Koreans.
Yeah, it's a great point that you bring up, especially about TLO's recent tournament performance. A lot of guys who say TLO's one of those players that he kind of plays with a chip on his shoulder. He wants to, impress his fans. He wants to do as much as he can for the people that support him. And he's one of those guys that when he gets knocked out of a tournament, he'll always immediately, apologize. Say he'll work better the next time. This consistent results he's been having lately, really a nice confidence boost for a player that wants to go out there and be able to give back with these results. So I feel his tournament performances are only going to get better. And like you just said, this tournament is that opportunity. Squirtle, on the other hand, like you mentioned, GSL runner-up, kind of known for being smart with builds. And I think that's a theme we might see in this matchup. Both players very smart when it comes to choosing builds.
I think you're absolutely right, Nathanius. Speaking of builds, we do actually open up with a fairly standard Zerg opening. It's just going to be, he did go with the pool first on Whirlwind. You're kind of afraid of, some players would go for the hatch first just because this is a 4-player map, so you're a lot less likely to get that probe scout blocking the hatchery, so you can get away with the more advantageous economic opening. But of course, the curse there would be that if he did go Forge first, and even sometimes Nexus first, they can actually do a really strong counter rush in here, so we did want to avoid that. On the flip side, we had a Gateway expand from Squirtle. He did go with the double gas, not the single gas, so it's very unlikely that he's going to be looking to go at it with like 4 gateways early on. Still an option, obviously, but it'll just be that much slower, so a lot of Protoss players skip that stage and instead use the gas to jumpstart a lot of their techs like a Stargate. I did actually get to watch Squirtle against Suppy earlier on in this tournament, even on this map, and he's a pretty straight-up player. You brought up a really good point, Nathaniel. He's just kind of he's very tight on his builds. That's exactly the kind of player he is. He's not a loose cannon like an MC who does tight with his builds too, but more likely to take some risks.
Yeah, and it's all about making sure that everything is precise and very on point when it comes to the type of builds that Squirtle has. I think a lot of people kind of giving him a bit of credit for the essentially Immortal push that became very popular.
Right,
he helped optimize it, of course, before partying went ham with the build.
Yeah, geez.
But someone's got to sit there in the dark room putting all of this together before you can actually bring it out into the spotlight, and that's what Squirtle does.
I think you're right. I think he is one of the scientists of the game, if there ever was one. I guess that means pause, but to me that's a little mini game of what's that paddle game you could play on the Atari. You weren't even alive when Nathanius, you're too young.
Is it Pong,
my goodness?
Man? That's all I got.
Your body says 20, but your facial hair says 56. I swear it. We're going to cut to our pretty mugs. Hello. I'm not sure what the pause is about. They haven't said anything, so we're going to... actually, a quick little story that is Apollo's nipple. One of my favorite parts about the WCS, you guys will have to catch the VOD on that later. There's probably, I need a shoulder cam, then you can get Apollo's nipple on camera.
Get the Google Glass. You just take pictures.
Oh,
as
geez.
soon as you see it, bam, you've got it.
Glass, nipple, now.
Straight
Thank
to Twitter.
you. And now it will be burned into my nightmares for the rest of my life. Game has resumed, so we can just... Hey, look at that. All we needed in that break was Apollo's nipple, and we can actually just pass the time. Thank you, Apollo. I almost called you Nipolo, actually. That's kind of like that. Yeah, so he's going to use his force wall off. I'm sorry, guys. I swear, like, another year of casting and these kind of things won't phase me. My face won't even change when Apollo flashes me. It'll just be like, yeah, what up? I'm a total pro right now. We do see 3 bases being taken out. This is something that's usually pushed back a little bit further because of that gateway opening. 4 gates are possible. And if you check the vision of TLO, I do not know that he's aware of the fact that 2 gas was being mined inside Squirtle's base. I feel like he's not aware of that. Adibisi's just going to... There we go. And check the vision. Boom. Nailed it. Adibisi, you're so good. Adibisi, of course, the best observer in Canada.
Yeah. At least top 3 Canada observers.
Yeah. He is A-class.
So... One of the things I think is interesting, at least about the build decision out of Squirtle that we were kind of talking about earlier, he's gone for the 3-gateway Forge build. So it's not the standard 4-gate after expand, going for a little bit of aggression that we saw to some other players like Puck. He's going for something that could be a little more upgrade time, and we do have some sentries being warped in. TLO knows about that pylon. This is,
strange.
Yes.
Strange, Nathaniel.
Thank you.
With the pylon not spotted, I understand the sentry warping. Okay, you're being covert. But with it under duress like that, warping in sentry seems really odd. The Lings are going to move in here. There's no force field. Just now going at the last second. Of course, those are perfectly placed force fields that do preserve the life of them. But as I say that, those are 3 force fields, which means there's no more coming. They did not have any energy. So even another warp in TLO has a chance to score a big victory right here. He does get a surround on the Zerglings. The sentries huddled in the corner. They're hoping the Zerglings cannot see him because they're not moving. Those are not T-Rexes. Those are Zerglings. Ooh, and he does time warp.
Wow.
Not time warp, but he recalls back.
That's like the helicopter swung right in, said, get aboard. And he managed to save at least one of those sentries, so it could have been a bit worse. And I think another thing to note is only with the 3 gateways, not able to get out quite as many zealots to defend against those Zerglings. He lost a lot, but he could have lost more.
I gotta say, though, I'm gonna put on my Joe Theismann, former pro, overly critical commentator hat and be like, I just disagree. The sentries being warped in, despite the Lings finding it, I feel like that's a mistake 9 times out of 10. I really do. Of course, TLO does punish it by making more Lings, and some people would say, well, look, he lost a couple of Lings, or Zealots, excuse me, and I think he actually lost 0 sentries, maybe 1, and then was recalled out. So at the end of the day, a lot of Lings were made mostly in vain. They did not get a whole lot of damage in, so that's maybe where Squirtle becomes the genius to my dunce cap.
Yeah, that's I'll throw in the good cop play and say that he went to bait him with the sentry, said, okay, you'll make a lot of Zerglings farm, and the mothership was intended to arrive at the last second just for style points.
Nathanius, you and a lot of other people are very smart. I appreciate that. That actually could be a very good read on that. I think the idea of sentries being bait out there is a hard sell. I really like that idea. Nathanius, you keep doing this, you're gonna get a hug out of me or something, man.
There's so much crazy stuff you can do with Mothership Cores. I love it. But we do have a lot of Immortals coming in, chrono boosting those out. TLO, though, let's just take a look at what this guy's doing. We haven't seen too much. He's got an Infestation Pit coming in. He's going for the melee attacks, so it doesn't look like he's going to jump straight into Swarm Hose. What's his play here? He's kind of known for going for the interesting strategies. Is he going to rush for something like Ultralisks? He's getting Burrow as well. As no clear direction that we can see for where he's going.
Well, right off the bat, I do feel like you're once again on the mark. I feel like this should be Ultras with the melee upgrade. Of course, I think you should also be doing double Evo if that's the case. A couple of Lings just deciding to do the Tour de Die. This Overseer joining in on the fun. There's a War Prism coming out, so I was wondering if this was going to be like an in-base harass type thing and a third behind it, but with that many sentries, this is a gateway shove with those Immortals. It's, of course, coming later than 10 minutes, so again, it's not your traditional, as you said, the parting choo-choo. And those are Ling Banelings. No speed up here, but they're going to go for the surround. A lot of force fields do need to go down, and a lot of those Banelings are not connecting, and Squirtle has secured himself a safe little corner.
There are so many force fields here. These Banelings, if Squirtle force fields, even reasonably well, not even at Korean level, so many force fields, it's almost impossible to not block this whole army off. And he's going to continue to pinch this off, continuing to just press forward. He's got a lot of stalkers, and This is a very difficult push for TLO to stop with just melee units.
Yeah, Ling Baneling not the best for this. Perfect force field's going down. None of the Banelings are finding any kind of connections. There are Infestors coming out. They will have Pathogen Lancers. Just one out now. Three more about to join it. But you hit the nail on the head again with this many sentries and with Squirtle's force fields. They are making Ling Baneling look like the worst thing possible. And I swear to you, they're not great against this, but they're not usually this bad. Squirtle's just playing on a league of his own.
Yeah, this just seems like another one of those situations where you either want to take advantage of that burrow or maybe go for some drop play on top of this.
Oh, yeah, okay. Burrow would
really...
be good. Yeah, he's not killing creeps, so he has no detection.
Yeah.
Burrowed Banelings would have been like, you can't come here. He actually could not move over them. That's a really good idea, Nathaniel.
Because he could use it to save the drones, but now at this point, it's almost like it's too late. He's let the pendulum swing for too long, and now it's going to come crashing into his natural expansion. These force fields, if you look at the two hatcheries, the macro hatch, it's basically a giant force field, making sure that nothing else can get past this.
This is another one of those games where TLO is going to want back, because I'm guessing with the start, he was feeling pretty good, but all of a sudden right now, he's got that slouched, sad feeling that a lot of us get. TLO less often than the rest of us, but this is the end of days. This is a push that will not stop. TLO does tap out. GG's around, and Squirtle takes the 1-0 advantage of this best of 3.
I have to say, you know, Squirtle, we saw was a little bit of an interesting, or you could say somewhat questionable move there with the sentries that were on the left side.
Not questionable. You won. I am telling you. Squirtle, we were talking about how he's the scientist. I'm seriously impressed. I think you nailed it. I think he warped in sentries under the view of those Lings, hard selling a gateway timing. Nathanius, it's supposed to be me that knows that stuff because I play the Protosses. You're awesome.
I'm just trying not to be wrong. But
it's okay. Yeah. Compliments are weird to take, especially on camera when 30,000 people are watching. But if I was like 10 years married, I'd just kiss you on camera. But you can't do that yet until you're 10 years married. Is that intimidating to you?
I mean... Maybe.
You're not even turning red. So
depends if there's like a GIF of it made or something like that.
There would be.
That'd be a bit much.
There would be a GIF.
Yeah.
I really like that though. Like I said, I know I'm supposed to get over this a lot quicker, but you actually, I think that's really cool. Squirtle on Whirlwind in close spawns, probably a little bit more of a reactionary development in his build as well. Not a particularly good map for any kind of immortal push if you're cross map or even like bottom right, top right. Not fantastic for that. But when you're bottom left, bottom right, the close spawns on Whirlwind, the map shrinks down very much so, and it does have a lot of wide open spaces, but those wide open spaces are a hop skipping away from a fairly confined space where just 3 or 4 force fields, as we saw from Squirtle, can really do wonders. I think the big mistake from TLO was that he was late to develop any kind of like counterattack option, so he didn't buy any time at all. We saw Lings trying to flirt with the idea with Squirtle, but all that ended up happening was they ran through a bunch of lasers and died.
And you made a really great point about how he didn't have an observer. He wasn't clearing out the creep as he pressed forward. TLO got a pretty interestingly timed burrow, even without that tech. You burrow 4 or 5 Banelings, those sentries were mega clumped.
Yeah. You are something special. I would have loved, and TLO's the kind of guy that would come up with that too, like, wait a second, you're not killing creep tumors. You burrow 10 Banelings, and you have to wait for an observer. That would buy him so much time. Maybe he has 6 or 7 more infestors, and all of a sudden we're talking about perhaps a different game. I still think TLO is very much so behind. And also, Squirtle would probably be like, oh, okay, I won't go towards your natural. I'll just head towards your third. So TLO would be in a lot of trouble, but that game does change.
And I think on this map we have a little bit more mind games. But first, spawning in the top left position of the map that is Belshir Vestige, as our red Protoss player currently up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. From LGIM, it is Squirtle. Going with a very nice Sentry Immortal push. And spawning in the bottom right position as our blue Zerg player, the German. It is from Team Liquid TLO.
TLO, a fan favorite, deservedly so, a very hard-working player, constantly underrated and constantly overachieving with those underratings. Right now, we can see the disappointment on his shoulder as latency settles in. Even BattleNet seems to be doubting his ability to stay in this game.
It's actually kind of weird. We were able to see his screen, and it looked like he had a different player dropping out on our monitors. It's him. So, bit of a tiny connection issue. Might have to regame or something of that sort. But as far as this map goes, as a Protoss player,
sure.
Squirtle went with the Gateway Expand in the first map. This is a map where you more often see that Gateway Expand than others. Is there a way TLO can take advantage of it on this map?
You know, that's kind of the fun thing about Protoss play this day and age, is it used to be that every single PVZ, it was a Forge first or Nexus first. That was really the only diversity you saw. And in general, they were both the same. The Forge first was a little bit safer with a more, a better option at cannon rushing a hatch first. But they both were like, I'm forfeiting the early game in the name of the mid game. Whereas with the Gateway expand, Protoss opens himself up to being more apparent and more present, is what I'm going for here in the early game with a 4-gate threat or even just early Mothership course. We will regame this and we'll go ahead and do that right now. So you asked the question, can you punish that? There is a yes and no there, and you can. I'm going to go, a lot of Zergs will go, I'll go hatch first, okay? But I can't remember what series it was, but even yesterday we saw, I think it was Todd. Was it Todd?
I think he went for the cannon rush on
because he went Gateway Expand the first 2 games. In Game 3, boom, Forge first, cannon rushes on Belcher Vestige because there's a great cannon rush spot on this map. So to answer your question, you can punish it, but if you get too greedy in that punishment, the Protoss now can switch back to a very much so other viable opening, but it requires a completely different response.
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's like the reverse metagame, trying to punish it with the hatch first, and then you get reverse punished because the Protoss anticipates that you'll be expecting the Gateway expand, and then the cannon rush comes in. But I don't think Squirtle is the player to go for the cannon rush. I mean, among Koreans,
you wouldn't think so, but he's 1-0 in this best of 3, and if there was ever a time to try that, that's what you do. I mean, the point I would make here is that that's kind of why we're starting to see a little bit better success from the Protoss players. Is that Protoss players, perhaps, I think this criticism is valid from the very beginning of Wings of Liberty to now. We're probably, I was about to say they're the most predictable. But of course we've got Zerg. In all of Wings of Liberty they were very predictable. So I guess we can't say that quite as much. But the point is, Protoss was, for the most part, in this matchup very predictable. They opened up really uniform and very, not bland, but very passive in the early game. The only thing we did was cannon rush, basically. But now we're seeing that diversity, which makes us a little bit harder to guess. So while you are correct, I don't know that Squirtle's a big cannon rusher. Do I want to wager my tournament existence on the fact that he did not go Forge first? I don't know that I would do that.
That's a very good point. And, I think the other thing to consider as far as the way that Squirtle opened, we kind of brought up how the Protoss predictable play as far as going for the mid-game timings and sacrificing the early game with that Gateway expand, feigning the pressure. Maybe that was one of the things. Maybe TLO really did anticipate that the attack was going to come earlier. He prepared for a push that didn't arrive until a few minutes later with all of those sentries. Even just, I'll just throw this out there. He did lose 2 of those sentries that he warped in at the proxy location, but he was planning on making so many of them. He probably, the one that he saved was like, okay, maybe that's way that he wants to do this. Do you think we'll see another push like that, another Sentry Immortal timing?
Well, okay, let's consider the map. Belcher Vestige, very good for swarm host play. We've seen that traditionally from a lot of the Zerg players. We know that TLO is no stranger to them. I think it's WCS EU that I saw him use them fantastically, but as I say that, I'm kind of scratching my head to remember who. Again, in a year from now, I'll tell these stories with more complete answers, but the short end of it is I do remember him using them fairly recently on this map. So I feel like if I know that swarm hosts are coming down the pipe, I'm probably setting myself up with a robo build. And even from a player like Huck yesterday, we saw a lot of early immortal pushes, not necessarily geared towards an all-in type level, but more towards I'm going to apply pressure to the third, maybe kill it, and then recall back. Could I see that from Squirtle? Absolutely, because it sets you up nicely to deal with the swarm host mid-game.
And you make up a very, very nice point with TLO, swarm host, in this map. I think one of the games I'd be thinking about, at the last DreamHack Stockholm Open, we had TLO versus Naniwa. We had a very interesting ZVP on this map with swarm host, so this is definitely going to be an interesting game if he does go for some strategy like that. TLO didn't really do too cheeky of a build in the first game. Is this where he busts out one of those crazy styles that he's known for?
Yeah, this is a good map for it. Similar to Whirlwind, the third base on this map is harder to take. I would say it's easier than it is on Whirlwind in a lot of ways. Again, it depends on kind of where they start in terms of locations, but that third has 2 entry points, but more importantly, it's further away from the natural/main base entry area, which means that the Protoss is going to have immaculate force fields, but it's also going to be very hard to cover the distance between. We also see a lot of Mulus play on here, but in recent history, I haven't seen that too much from TLO. Of course, he's capable of anything. That's one of the things you would say about him. But I have not seen a whole lot of Mula play, so I do anticipate swarm hosts, and the fan in me is hoping that this goes for 54 minutes, and it's really back and forth, and TLO wins, so we can get game number 3.
Yeah, I think that even the crowd wants to see TLO even this matchup. But,
you guys want to see TLO win?
There we go. You know how to get the cheers out of him.
It's easy. Watch. Tacos.
All right.
But you'll learn this. The magic is you can do about 3 or 4 of those. The 5th one, it starts to stop. Also, the tweets come in making you feel really bad about yourself. This loading screen's taking absolutely forever.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering, maybe I guess one of our observers have a hard time getting in. That face you're making.
You know what? As you say that, I do see Demaga and Happy Zerg trying to observe this game, so yeah, it could be a connection issue. Europe. I mean, Eastern Europe.
Eastern European internet sometimes.
You know what? Let's do this. Here's the thing, Nathanius. You're a very straight-laced guy. It's one of the only times I've ever seen you without a tie either on your head or your chest. I'm going to loosen you up a little bit. How have you liked Sweden so far?
It's been pretty nice.
What's your favorite kind of burrito?
What?
Burrito?
Burrito? I mean, I guess.
What is your favorite kind of burrito?
Like rice and chicken, I guess. I don't know. Nothing crazy.
Just rice and chicken? That's
I'm a
in
very
this dream world where you could create a burrito, you came up with rice and chicken?
I am a very plain guy when it comes to food, I guess.
Ask me what my favorite burrito is.
Hey, In Control, what's your favorite burrito?
A check for $1 million inside a wad of money. Because I could make any kind of burrito I want. That's the one I'd like. I would unravel it, of course, not eat it. That would be silly.
Fair enough.
This loading screen is taking a long time.
I almost
Red Eye, please, your nipple. Do you? I'm actually going to be honest with you guys. So Red Eye just walked up. All right, Red Eye, thank you. Yes. Whoa, you got some fans here, buddy. He walked up. Okay, so earlier I wasn't joking. Apollo actually went behind the camera, lifted up, and there's nipple. The only other Brit in Sweden walks up. What does he first do? Rubbed his nipple. So I have a question for you guys, and perhaps the Queen. Why the nipple?
We love you.
Because we love you. I accept. Thank you. The game is underway, so the game's underway! Yeah. That's number 3, though. Keep that in mind. Do not go for number 4.
All right. Well, we are here, finally, on the map that is Belshir Vestige. A little bit more warm-up from Apollo. And spawning in the bottom right position as the red Protoss player. Currently up 1-0 in this series. For LGIM, it is Squirtle. Love that cool wing logo on the back. I really like
have
the team
sick
logo.
jerseys. They have sick jerseys.
And his opponent spawning in the top left position as the blue Zerg player coming in for Team Liquid. It is TLO.
All right. Now, I'm not going to lie. It's well documented that I am a horrendous romantic when it comes to foreigners versus Koreans. I love me my Koreans, but I also really like it when good stories like TLO can overachieve and beat a juggernaut like Squirtle. Of course, I will not be disappointed if Squirtle advances. He is a phenomenal player, and he will only increase the amazingness as he goes down the tournament because, of course, more is at stake, but then also better opponents. So that as it is. Let's talk about the builds just a little bit. If you look at that production tab, you'll notice our blue Zerg has yet to drop a spawning pool. And we're at 15 supply. We're coming up on 200, so this is a telltale moment. Will a drone leave, or will it make a spawning pool? It's going to leave to go drop a hatch. So, never mind. He just pump faked me. Anyways.
No, I like this. I like this, what Squirtle's doing. He sent out the probe scout pretty early. Now, when you go for the gateway expand, it's not like he's worried about getting hit with a 6 pull. He's going to be able to build an early zealot if he needs to. But the Overlord sees that. TLO immediately drops that spawning pool.
You saved me again.
What if there's a cannon rush because he's anticipating this? And Squirtle's like, yeah, I'm going gateway expand, but now you can't go hatch first anymore.
And I really like how Squirtle is playing out the best of 3. Game number 1, gateway expand on a 4-player map. Okay, I probably can't hatch block you, so I'm not even going to try to scout. Game 2, it's a 1v1 map. You know that I gateway expand, so I'm going to deny that hatchery anyways. But as we can see, actually, the probe and the drone, they did their little dance, but the drone actually came out ahead and dropped the hatch without being too interrupted. Now, another note about Squirtle's build. You talked about it being a gateway expand. You're very right. But look inside that main. It's just the 1 gas. Now, that does mean to me that we're not necessarily going to see 1 base 4-gate, but we could end up seeing a very early 4-gate off of 2 Nexi in hopes of canceling that faster third that we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that's going to come into play about this is where the Chrono Boost is spent, how much energy he has.
Right.
He only has 25 available on the Nexus, so it's not like he's going to be able to continuously pump out that Chrono Boost.
Sure.
And I feel we threw out there the potential of that 2-base, 4-gate pressure is definitely interesting. But I also like that Squirtle, unlike a lot of the other Protoss players in this tournament versus Zerg, has going for that 3-gate Forge build to really like being able to get that
Right.
+1 timing. We even could see something along the lines of a early robotics facility push. And
Sure.
interesting tweet there on the
does that say?
stream. They rub their nipples like Aladdin rubs his lamp.
Also Hodor. This probe will get spotted in the corner. That's actually a big, big deal, ladies and gentlemen. That probe was hiding with the intent of dropping a string of pylons to perhaps charge and instigate the gateway timing, but without that probe being out there, second probe will have to go out, or the idea will be forfeit. We can see whether we'll see that in a second here. Stalker's actually going to make its way out to go ahead and try to save that probe, and these are just slow links for now, so it should actually be successful in that endeavor. And there's the third base. Of course, in TLO fashion, Nathanius, it's in a weird spot.
Yeah, that's the first thing I was going to say, Jeff. What are exactly it might be the reason why he does this? I feel like if Squirtle were to go for the 4-gateway pressure, he could do a lot of damage versus this. TLO, though, very smartly, he will be able to spot this Forge, and he recognizes that if this is going to be a timing attack, it's going to come a little bit later than just the standard Warp Gate timing. And I feel, I'm not 100% sure where the advantage here is because it's going to be harder to create spread, but tell me.
So the reason he put it there is because that probe is going to go up and see that there's no third. And it's going to say, whoa, you're on 2 base. I'm worried about an all-in. I'm worried about you having enough speedlings to really make a gateway timing look stupid, so I'm going to back off on the idea. When lo and behold, actually there's a but a fairly early third, given that he's mining gas, going down and completing. And Squirtle very well could end up not checking that. We can see the Mothership Core moving out right now, and it's going dead center down the middle of the map, not heading towards that third. So Squirtle is going out to check on tech. I can tell you he's probably already abandoned the idea of a gateway to timing.
Yeah, I can tell you're a Protoss player. It was quite the oracle of a call there. He doesn't know about the third. The Zerglings are going to press in towards the natural. The Stalker is there to block, though. But you're right. Squirtle, how much kind of a timing attack are you going to try to make against a Zerg that would presumably be on 2 bases, especially TLO? For all you know, he could be going for something crazy like that Fast Nidus play. And this is a really nice way of TLO, after being down that first game, saying, no, we're playing on my terms.
Yeah. I really like the mind games that are going on right now. The Lings sniffed out something from the Zealots. We actually have a 4th and a 5th Zealot being warped, and now that drone has just let up what's going on. The Mothership Cores are going, wait a second. Nobody drone scouts at 7:30. I think you have a third, and there in fact is one. There's a little bit of Ling pressure over here. When I say a little bit, I mean a lot of it. There's not a string of Lings behind this, so he's going to kill the Forge. It's actually really nice. There goes the +1.
That's a very, very nice catch. Of course, he's going to be able to, if he was going for a timing, well, now he can't. The Zealots aren't going to be able to have any kind of upgrade advantage whatsoever. And even if he restarts +1 attack with this new Forge he's building, +1 Carapace is going to be done. So mitigating all potential upgrade advantages, even getting a second evolution chamber and Burrow. Jeff, are we going to see TLO make more active use of Burrow this game?
I would hope so. He's getting it really, really fast. So there's got to be some kind of design at play here. A 4th base going down as well, all pre-lair. There's the Banelina. So TLO is opening up with his fancy footwork. This is the TLO we know and love. Some strange stuff afoot. Adabisi, can you show us that colony of Zealots on the top right-hand side? Because that's going to be interesting here in a moment. You will notice that none of them are not really much of a chance of them repopulating the area, but what they should end up doing is going in to cancel that 4th base. And with the Mothership Core there, of course, they could recall out. Oh my god, they've got beamed up right off the bat.
Yeah, and
a little bit of a missed opportunity, I'm going to be honest with you.
I feel like he might have been like, okay, well, there's no third, so let's get out of here. It doesn't check.
But there is.
That's
I would have liked, because there's nothing to lose for him to go up there and check just to be sure, because he was going to recall out anyway. So on this day, In Control corrected Squirtle in his gameplay. I'm going to write that in my journal. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a journal. But a lot of these gateway units are going to push out. Still no third for Squirtle. So Nathanius, what's your diagnosis of this? Is he going to push out on 2 base? Is that what we're looking at?
I feel like if he was really worried about TLO going for some kind of weird play, he would have gone for very defensive tech like either Void Rays or Colossus, something to help deal with either a very early Roach timing or to deal with something like a very fast Swarm Host play. But here we have those Burrow Banelings. This is what we wanted to see in the first game.
Caster Orgasm!
There's a lot of sentries here.
Caster Orgasm!
Watch
for it, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud with necessity!
Here he goes.
Do it to me!
The Banelings all over the sentries. They're all going to go down. And a surround on Squirtle Stalkers.
All right.
TLO getting the engagement. He needed to get a very nice position in this game with some sick burrow play.
And that is what the doctor ordered. That 2-base attack has been shut down and stomped into oblivion. TLO is approaching 4 bases. He does not have much in the way of tech, but he is way ahead in just about every other category, including at 122 supply versus the 72 of Squirtle. Squirtle's still not on 3 base, and I'll tell you what. As a Protoss player, which is, I'll stop saying that eventually, I promise you, when you lose your army and you do not have at least a 3rd base, very little you can do. That Twilight Council right there, in the famous words of Day 9, win behind, audience? Thank you. There's like 9 of you. I appreciate it, guys. Stark Shrine, thank you. 22,000 of you online, though, I'm guessing. Probably knew
The
it.
question is, how
What
much
is that Queen Bird for?
He's just chilling. It's like whatever.
In between injects, I like to be beneath the earth.
Maybe it's like putting on a mask, whatever, like the face mask for beauty.
Yeah, actually, that's a really weird. Yeah, it's that. I do like what happens now, though, with that Burrow Baneling Bomb. It's not going to be the same effect because you can actually just have an observer follow your army. But a lot like Terrans, once that happens, they're like,
oh yeah,
oh my god. For the rest of the game, they're worried about it. Where does Squirtle go from here? Tech-wise, we're not seeing much. That Twilight Council did finish. No Blink, no Dark Shrine. I guess it's just for upgrades, and he's going to oh no, is that Ling? Oh!
He's going to die anyway.
Put some weight on Zergling. Yes, In Control told you to put on some weight. Yeah, so I guess he's just going to try to take a 3rd, but here comes the choo-choo train.
And there's a lot of Zerglings and Banelings. I feel like TLO might have slowed his own timing down a little bit. He doesn't have centrifugal hooks. It's not even researched.
Yeah.
So his Banelings won't be able to get in quite as fast. And with the force fields, this is an army composition that we have seen before in the last game. Squirtle had some great force fields, was able to peel TLO's army apart bit by bit. And if he can get those great force fields again this game, he will have an opportunity to come back if it's just Zerglings. But TLO's going to get us around in this 3rd base. At the same time, trying to run inside the natural. The 3rd Nexus, force fields go down. He will be able to force the cancel there. And TLO, he might barely be able to punch his way into the natural.
Wow.
He is inside. He's moving into the main base, getting this round on this army outside the natural. Jeff, Squirtle is in a world of hurt right now.
He is in a world of hurt. Actually, the Twilight Council for a moment being targeted down, but then we decided to be elsewhere, excuse me. A lot of probes do go down there. Now again focusing on that Twilight Council. Not the biggest of deals if Blink goes down. The real big deal here is the 3rd was canceled. The natural has a gigantic gaping hole poked in it. Squirtle on the back foot, but as I say that, the supply has closed in a little bit. So while the 3rd was canceled and some probes did die, not a lot of the army of Squirtle was touched. But as I say that, a line of infestors are coming out, and I think they will make up the difference. I would like to see centrifugal hooks, though. If you're going to make this many Banelings, as you pointed out, it really doesn't make sense not to make them faster and more roly-poly.
Yeah, there's no reason not to give your Banelings a little bit of boost. Either going for something like the Overlord drops would be nice to see if he's not going to get the Baneling speed upgrade, or
even then you still just get it.
Yeah, it's if you're going to make this many Banelings, I mean, you might not normally do it. But here's the high from TLO, and my question to you, Jeff, as he gets ready to go into another engagement here, is what is he going to need to do to actually finish this game with the lead that he had early on? Because right now it looks like Squirtle is bringing this up to par.
Well, at Hive Tech, he's going to really want to add some Ultralists. I mean, there's no answer for it. You need Immortals. You probably need Colossi to thin out the support units for said Ultralists. But I'm getting a little bit nervous because this is a large Protoss army. And keep in mind, TLO was not operating off of double Evo. So while he does have what I feel like is an upgrade advantage, I'm going to click to make sure. Let's see.
It looks like it's dead even. It's plus 2
It is dead
carapace.
even. I think that's a missed opportunity. I think if I'm TLO and I'm on 4 base versus 2 base Zerg, there's 2 things I feel like you can do that'll have no answer. Double Evo, because the Protoss will skip upgrades as they are starved out economically, but also Spire. TLO not the Spire guy? Fine, go double Evo.
Yeah, and he's going to try to snipe this 3rd base off again, getting it very low, but the force field's going to be able to block
I like
them
the
off
Burrow.
for now. Burrow's the Zergling's a great use of that, and you know the Observer.
Is there no Robo?
He does have.
Oh no, he's making a robotics bay. Okay.
Yeah, he has
Oh,
observers, but
you might forget about him. No.
He does have a couple stalkers.
Oh, there's the
behind,
observer.
But, the observer is now here.
I'm still kind of worried for TLO, though. Like, he does have a lot of infestors out, but of course with that skill shot fungal, they're not the auto win that they used to be. If you whiff on those, he's got thin Ling Bailing behind it, and they're not that well upgraded. So Warp Prism making its way to the right side of the map. This is where Squirtle's going to start to fight back. Squirtle very much so behind, but for how much longer? An infestor does get caught trying to sneak in. A warp in does prevent these Lings from running by. Squirtle is starting to button up. TLO going with the infested Terran attack. He's going to dump a lot of energy there. That's actually really good play because once they hit max energy, there's no rollover. You just don't have more energy.
Yeah, I still feel like, though, we're getting a lot of really cost-effective engagements with Squirtle. And like you said, slowly but surely pulling that support.
Oh, my God.
That Nexus has got 51 hit points available.
That was 2 infested Terrans, man.
Yeah, that's... and you know what, though? Securing that third base, that's really all Squirtle needs to become... That's the backbone of... That's his backbone right now. I almost feel like, he wishes he had a comfort blanket where he could just maybe even rebuild it just to get the health back. But
6 more infestors coming out. Spinecrawler's going down. TLO is doing the things he needs to secure that victory. There's a big fight that will be avoided due to force fields. But Ling's running by. They're going for the third. The third will go down, and it dies, which means Squirtle, who's mined out his main base, is on 1-base economy, and he doesn't even have the money for a Nexi right now. He's having a tough time finding the funds. Ling's running through. That wall-in is complete there. Infestarian's going down. All of a sudden, Squirtle's pinched between a rock and a hard place just a little bit.
At the same time, Squirtle's had a lot of harass going in the top right side of the map with some Zealots, so he has been able to lose a lot of the mining here for TLO, although we do have a lot of Spinecrawlers coming in. The Spire. Ultralisks are on the way, though. Chitin is plating being researched. The Zergling's starting to ravage the natural.
Colossus.
That Colossus is balling out. 23 kills so far, but it is going to fall. The robotics facility will be exposed as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching...
They're blocking this army out.
We are watching the dismantling of Squirtle, and there it is. TLO has won. We're at 1 apiece.
Great game by our Liquid Zerg player. I think that was the game we were looking for to tie this series up. Very exciting.
Absolutely.
And I think Squirrel's going to have some nightmares when he goes to sleep tonight about the Baneling bomb.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, from the very beginning, really good mental play from TLO. I loved the decision to take the odd-placed third, which, on paper you look at and you say that's a very pushable third. It's very much so not as good as the other one, but in a lot of ways, given the situation we were at, it was the better third. And I feel like that's the new TLO that we're looking at. We're looking at a TLO that's not just doing what is supposed to be good, but rather doing what's supposed to be good against his opponent that day, that moment. And I think that's what he needs to be doing to win tournaments, and he can.
Yeah, another very tiny thing I'd like to point out, TLO didn't try to use the Burrow at all in the end of game number 1. Even after he'd already lost the majority of his forces, we kind of talked about how he might have been able to use it. Not showing it might have actually helped him as far as Squirtle really not being prepared at all for that push that came towards his third base. So I agree.
Game number 1 was just a setup. Game number 2.
Yeah, at the very least, well, he made the most of it is what I mean to say.
I know, I'm teasing, man. I know.
But I'm very...
It does lend itself that way.
I gotta say, whatever TLO does in this third game, Acheron Wastes is going to be a bit more favorable as far as Squirtle getting that third base up himself. So if TLO wants to, we saw the first game went for pretty standard play. The second game, a little bit more unorthodox, was able to secure a nice early advantage. Does he go, I guess we say full TLO, with some crazy tactics on Acheron Wastes?
Traditionally, this is a Protoss versus Zerg map favoring Protoss. They like it a lot. Anytime you can take a natural and defend it very well, but more importantly, secure a third, you're talking about a Protoss that should have all the makings of the tools they need to win a game. That is Colossus and probably Templar. But if you're of more of the Air Protoss variety, then you can afford 3 or 4 Stargates off of 3 base. And that, of course, is, again, what you need to produce the army to then go on to win the game. To make matters worse, the 4th base is also fairly easy to take on this map. It's not a gimme, but it only has 1 entry point and a fairly narrow one at that, which means with a little bit of SimCity and an army to be able to combat that low ground, you're in a good position. So, to your point, do we see the fancy TLO this game? I feel like we have to. I feel like we do. I don't think TLO can just take his 3 bases, roach Hydra into something. I feel like we should see Ling Baneling drops like you were talking about. We should see supercharged mules play, like double Spire off of 4 base, skip roaches altogether, something like that. Yeah,
he's not going to be able to get those Zergling run-bys that we saw in the last game. There's nowhere near as many alleyways into that third. So, and it's also going to be, the cool thing about Acheron Waste, you can put your army in front of your natural and your third at the same time. Right. And that leaves that pocket 4th base with the destructible rock tower. I do feel that Squirtle's going to be favored on this map. as far as the crazy strategies that TLO can go for, what do you think is best? Is it going to be Swarm Hose, maybe Nidus play with roaches, or just a straight up, maybe really greedy play?
I like the greed. I think TLO should take a risk. Looks like we might need to leave this. We'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either greed or, Swarm Host has been called upon from here. Many a time we saw Stefano hold on for dear life against Todd just yesterday. You and I had the honor of casting that. So that could be an option. But, ladies and gentlemen, we've had nipples, we've had talk, we've had great games. It's been a while. Let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break so that when we come back, this game can get set up and we'll get right into it. So we will see you guys soon.
So how did you end up in this match against Take?
Earlier today was an interview. He said he wanted to play, so I figured why not just beat his ass.
How good is Take at ping pong?
Probably like he is at everything else, which is quite horrible.
Do you think there's a chance in the world Take is going to be able to beat you?
There's about as much chance of him beating me in table tennis as there is of him beating me in StarCraft, which is 0.
Beating you in StarCraft doesn't look that bad for me.
Well, we can play StarCraft too, man. It's fine. I will kick your ass.
Last time you told me I have almost the same MMR as you.
Well, you have been improving, but there's still quite a step to go from a caster.
I should ask your opponents in DreamHack.
Yeah, you can ask them. You won't beat them either.
Did you play your opponents in DreamHack at ping pong?
I did not play them at ping pong, but if I did, I would win.
Finally something.
Well, just play. Get your ass beat.
So I'm here with the winner of the DreamHack 2013 Tabletop Championship, of course held between Rhett and Take, the only 2 participants, but the victor is Rhett. Rhett, how did you manage to score that victory?
I'm just amazingly talented and way better than him at anything, so I won easily.
All right, did you use any special tricks?
Not really. I just hit the ball back, and it was easy.
Wow, well, do you have anything to say to the champion over here?
Yeah, he had the good side. It's 21-14, second game's running, 4-2 for me. So I think that the side is deciding everything.
All right, well, there may still be more left to decide, but Rhett, if you did win this, if this is all over, what do you want to say to your fans?
Oh, well, thanks for supporting me throughout my table tennis career, and I hope everybody continues to cheer for me, and I will try my best to
Wonderful.
beat this newbie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rhett. Thank you, guys.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are setting up this game. It is almost underway. We are all tied up between Squirtle and TLO, a match for the ages. Nathanius, going in Ackland Waste. We talked a lot about this map. Give me your pick, not for who you want to win, but who you think will win. Be honest.
Well, I think based on at least what we've seen so far, we're going to see a much more conservative and very aware style from Squirtle. I'm going to have to give this game a little bit of an edge to him. Although,
Nice.
of course, we would have, of course, loved to see TLO make his run that he's been looking for so long.
Very safe answer.
What about you before I introduce these players?
Good. I'm glad you took Squirtle because that gives me a chance to do this. I want TLO to win! All right.
You're using the crowd against me.
I just threw you under the bus. I'm just kidding. No, it's okay. They're both great players, right? Yeah. Both great players and good people.
It's okay. I kept my hands, so I can still observe. That's spawning in the top left position as the blue Protoss player coming in for LGIM. Just dropping that game. It's currently 1-1. It is Squirtle. And at the same time, already with a pylon position for that same gateway expand style.
You're right.
And his opponent in the bottom right position, evening things up with possibly the sickest Baneling bomb of this tournament. From Team Liquid, it is TLO.
I think you're right. I don't know I've heard of a better one. I was actually waiting because... oh, excuse me. This game is so exciting that I'm having a tough time hitting puberty, actually. I was waiting for that pylon to produce something because a part of me wanted to believe that he put that pylon down and then he was going to go Forge for this game number 3 mix-up because Ackland Waste is a great map for Hatch first, and lo and behold, look what's happening. TLO is approaching his third. I think that's going to be a hatchery. Yes, sirree, Bob. And then a couple of drones after. So if that pylon had a Forge at it, in game number 3 said, you know what, I'm going to do a super cannon rush, he would have scored a big victory, because guess what? Bada bing, bada boom. We're going to have 3 hatcheries before spawning pool. At least that's what he's thinking. Can he get it down before the probe gets there? Nope. Nope, they're going to have to dance.
This is a very interesting decision by TLO. I think going for the, moving to take the far away hatch first, when you anticipate your opponents going for the gateway expand, he kind of recognized after that second game, okay, well, he can still go for it and send the probe to block. But going for the third hatchery, there, with the gateway expand, this, even without the expand part, it's not that difficult for Squirtle to punish a double hatch before pool.
I agree. I think TLO going into this game number 3, we were saying we probably felt like he needed to take a risk. I think he asked himself, what would cats do? And then he drew up the answer, which is 3 hatch before spawning pool. I do like his response, though. With that pylon/probe going in to intercept the otherwise third hatch, he just drops the spawning pool. He's not going to force it. He's not saying, whoa, I'm set on this build. I'm going to do it no matter what. And, of course, as we can see with the pylon finishing, that would have been a huge mistake because he never would have dropped the hatch in any kind of meaningful time. And we'd be talking about like a 9-minute spawning pool, which, by the way, doesn't exist in competitive play. You can't do that. Unless the Protoss opens up quad Nexus, and then maybe there's this weird arms race where they all take. Never mind. I digress.
What you do is you get the macro Nexus, and then you get extra chrono boost, and you also get the forward position on your ramp for photon overcharge if they come in with the 2-base timing. I've seen Grubby use the macro Nexus, the forward Nexus. We've seen a few Korean Protosses create the planetary Nexus idea in the middle of the map. It was Wings of Liberty. I actually coached a guy who's Bowman X on the North American ladder. And in our first lesson, he drops a Nexus next to his main Nexus. And I said, what the hell are you doing? And he said, I'm going macro Nexus. And I thought he was trolling me. But he would later get GM. Not that says a lot about the North American ladder, but it was something interesting to have happening. That's my story for the day. Shout out to Bowman. We do see a very similar opening up from Squirtle. 2 gates, presumably a forge here to button up that ramp. It seems to be this is his PVZ. Now, what I'm curious to see is what exactly is going to come from this forge. He's obviously going to go for the +1 attack. You want to get the Zealots set up, but still only 1 gas in his main base. Actually, as I say that, he's going to take the other gas. So, what kind of options is he going to have here going for the 2 gas with this forge? Is it going to be maybe a +1? Is he going to go for something like a Stargate play?
Nathanius. Okay, so Adabisi, show that probe above that third again, please, one more time. I think an Overlord did spot that, but we're not seeing a reaction from TLO. Now, if I'm a Protoss and I've got that probe right there not being touched, I might make 3 or 4 more gateways and go for a timing here. But this Overlord is going to come up just in the nick of time. You can see it getting canceled. And I'm glad, because what a boring game and sad game 3 that would have been if like a 6 gateway just crushes TLO. But TLO is covering his base. It's just a little bit slower than I would have liked, but still, it gets there.
Yep. And, I think right now, as far as this game goes, both players just really macroing up. We have double evolution chamber from TLO. I like this decision a lot.
Tell me why.
You want to get an edge somewhere. Like we stated, Squirtle is going to be favored in a regular stand-up macro game. Very renowned Korean player. And if you want to be able to, at least we saw in the first game, in the straight-up fights, he wasn't able to win because of the great control of Squirtle. So getting an edge where you can, very important. And we also saw the last game, TLO didn't really take advantage of the possibility, or at least the option he had, to get those upgrades going.
You're right. Certainly the second evolution chamber was never realized. That was one of the kind of deficits to his build, I would say. Both these players playing this map interesting because you and I both agreed, and we went into this saying that this is not the best map for things like Ling run by. So double melee, a little bit curious in the regard that, of course, in early to mid game, we shouldn't see the same kind of damage. There's not going to be a whole lot of thirds getting canceled or killed. Running in through the natural, probably not an option. So, of course, we look to the late game to see where this is being realized. 2-2, very good. And then, of course, 3-3 Ultras, very powerful. That being said, this is also a great map for the Protoss off the back of that Mothership core to take a very fast third. And as we approach this 9-minute mark, I don't know that that's what's going to happen. It should be more like a 10 or even 11-minute third Nexus, which is about what he did on Belshire Vestige. So I think Squirtle is just like, I don't know who this guy is. Game number 2, he was super weird. I'm going to play really safe.
And I also want to say, as this robotics facility comes to a close, as it begins to finish, like you said, Squirtle, the first 2 games, what did he see, though? A lot of Zerglings, Infestors, Banelings. Is this the map where he's going to go for the Colossi play? I mean, he's mostly been sticking to this gateway-based composition, but I feel like there are a couple of opportunities here for him to continue to punish this, either with just a ton of sentries and just continuing to go for mass force fields, or maybe playing the Unicom position a little bit more closely.
I mean, as you say that, my friend, there's 3 gateways going down, and Immortal is coming out. You know, it's been Ling Baneling from TLO the first 2 games, so does Squirtle make the read here that he could just rely on his really good sentry use? Look at that, Hallucinate Colossus. The funny thing, I always find this funny with the Hallucinate Colossus, because right now, if TLO doesn't scout, what we're going to start to see from the Protoss is be like, weird movements, like, where do I think an Overlord is? Let's go dance over there for a little bit. He's going to be like, hey, look, my Colossus and I are just over here, this random spot, no reason, you know. And he's going to work on the rocks. So for right now, the Colossus is just doing nothing. He's really hoping, he's like, TLO, come on, scout me, please. Because otherwise, it's like 5 more gateways, no third. This is just going to be an Immortal shove.
And, you know,
oh, there's the Ling. I don't know if you saw it.
I wonder if he saw that. That's very important. If TLO sees that, you know, you suddenly realize, because from TLO's perspective, it's, well, there were no Colossi before. Maybe this is when I can throw on the Spire and just catch him as he tries to switch into this, but...
10 drones, Nathanius. 10 drones, and he's putting a 4th down. I mean, these are not the answers you need for this. He's got 2-2 incoming, but I don't know that that'll have an effect, at least not in the beginning stages of this attack, whereas it'll be 1-1 Protoss. So they're going to be equal upgrades. There is Burrow, but we have an Observer with the army this time. 3 Infestors coming out. Here comes the counterattack. And Squirtle did down the rocks, actually. Kind of a weird choice, given that he is not taking that 3rd. But we might have ourselves a weird game, and no surprise here, it is TLO.
And perhaps those drones that came out from TLO were a reaction to seeing the rocks go down. Maybe he thinks,
Very good point.
He's going to go for the 3rd base. I'll just drone up. And now that this push is coming out here, there's still a lot of force fields available. He's just saying, despite that upgrade advantage that TLO's going to have in just a few seconds here, if he force fields the army away, who cares what upgrades you have?
Yeah, TLO, unlike Game Number 1, is buying time right now. That's a very good point, Nathanius. There's a lot of dancing around going on right now, which, yeah, okay, a few Zerglings are dying, but that's not that big of a deal. There's that Burrow, the Observer, not quite there just yet, but those are just Zerglings. There's no such thing as a Zergling bomb. That would suck ass. Observer cleaning up a lot of the creep tumors right now. Infestors are coming out. More Spine Close going down. I think Squirtle might be dancing around too much right now. There is a counterattack. There's only 1 cannon there. And if he has a warp in, he could warp in something. And the Nexus is being focused down. If it's 1 base Protoss with this kind of an attack, that's not great. Not a lot of Spine Crows here. TLO needed more up on the top of that ramp. The Link counter will destroy that natural.
And it looks like Squirtle wants to accept this semi-base trade. He does have the Mothership Core. He can try to retreat back to his main base, but he's moving in, getting bungled now, and TLO just needs time. Set up his defenses, hold the natural expansion, and completely eviscerate the economy
just
of
dancing
Squirtle.
around. He thought about the 3rd, but who cares about the 3rd? This is game-ending situation. TLO has bought so much time. He's got a lot of energy. The army's all bunched up. There's a fungal that critically hits the whole army. TLO getting us around. Squirtle is dying in the middle of this map.
Are we going to see a foreigner
I can't believe what I'm seeing.
This is an absolutely fantastic engagement. He's managed to hold on to all 4 of his bases. The infested Terrans coming out. And Squirtle is not going to be able to break this behind this. He's locked down to just his main base. How many probes does he even have? Still 47.
That is it, ladies and gentlemen.
Where are they going to mine?
No, he's got nothing. Look at the production tab. Nothing being warped in. He's got $60 to his name. He can't even buy a Zealot right now. Those are bad times. Squirtle is backing and forthing on the map, coming to grips with the idea that the German player TLO was the better man on this day. Squirtle is going to die. He's approaching the 4th base. It's not really being mined, but this is it. He can recall out if he wants, I guess, and he might not even do that.
Yeah, throws on double time warp. He's just going to accept his fate as he kind of chews through the results.
That's it.
GG! TLO, our foreigner, advancing to the round of 8 here at DreamHack Summer 2013. Fantastic series from our team Liquid Zerg.
Hugging his manager, Apollo, of course, knowing a camera is about to be there, hops in there. And TLO, this is a good feeling. He is going to be in that top 8. He's going to be in the show, and he has gotten a piece of that gorilla off of his back, defeating one of the tournament favorites, Squirtle, who had a very good showing, by the way. Congratulations to Squirtle making all the way here. Unfortunately for him, TLO is a little bit of a headline grabber when he has a big result like this.